Hi, Vandana. How are
Hello.
you?
Hi, Karthik. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
Good, all well. Thanks for coming in. This is our first pilot podcast episode.
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I think, like we were talking about it before the camera started rolling, that this is something we've been wanting to do for quite some time.
Yeah,
And so thank you for, again, making it convenient for me to just walk into this and start having a conversation. So.
it's very impulsive how it started because we were chatting about our SoulSabha, what plans. Remember? We were on the
Yep.
phone and then we said, hey, you should do a podcast together. I think it was a month and a half ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly a couple of months ago, in fact, almost to the date, sometime towards the third week of Jan.
Yeah.
And you said, you know what, let's pick this up in Feb or March. So I think we've stuck to our word and really followed through. So
Good. Yeah, it's nice.
that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Nice. So, what's been happening?
So many things. I think what has been a highlight for me in the last few years has been coming closer to what I think my calling is. And that has also involved, a lot of ups and downs. And like we've been having a conversation about, how it was during COVID and all of that. You have to sometimes be pushed into a corner to really find out what it is that you really want to do. And then, you hope to come closer to your purpose, for lack of a better word. And I think ever since that clarity has come into my life, it's somewhat of a double-edged sword, because when that clarity comes into your life, you can't revert to earlier ways of being. You are so clear about what you don't want to do anymore. And then it becomes a matter of filling up the spaces of what you actually want to do. So the point I'm in, right now is all about having that clear vision as to what I want to fill my time up with, and about how I'm going to execute that vision. So
Right.
that's what's been happening.
Nice.
Bit of a vague answer, but
No, it's
yeah.
very nice because we were chatting about it some time ago where, I don't know, I feel like all creative people keep having this once in a while, it keeps happening, right? I don't know, back in the day before Indosoul and all that, every week there was one day I used to be like almost depressed. I was like, hey, what am I doing in life? So it's almost like, I feel like musicians will escape the whole midlife crisis sort of a thing, because every week
'Cause it
or
happens
every
all the
month
time.
we just questioning what we are doing
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I've also been going through similar thoughts of, hey, what have I been doing so long and how am I seeing it today, but what do I want to do for the next few years? And I feel it does come from a bit of a feeling of a void, which, as we discussed, COVID did as much as suffering there was with COVID in general. It just gave us a pause to, reflect on what we are doing, why we are doing, and what else. Right? That question was.
It's very interesting that you said most musicians, or you said as musicians, we go through this. And I've realized that, in my conversations with a lot of people, not everybody goes through it, because I think a lot of people, everybody chooses their path and their mode of operating, right? And not all people go through that feeling of what next.
Yes.
A lot of people are happy to go with the flow, which is great. That's their way of being, and, no questions and no judgments. But I think I also did that for a while, because when things are great, you have no reason to question, the flow. But I think COVID is what changed a lot of things for me. The sudden sort of almost forced way of having to sort of reevaluate everything, where everyone's pushed into the same situation, right? We're not at the same level, but we're all in the same situation where we have to think about what do we do next. And I think from that came a lot of clarity eventually, after going through my series of rock bottoms. Some of them are so far below,
Yeah, good things come from that though, right?
Eventually. And I think that you have to power through. There's nothing wrong in seeking help while you do that as well.
Yeah.
It's needed. And if you're fortunate, you get out of that place and you get to a point where you know, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. And I think so much of it happens by elimination, right? You try something, you don't enjoy it, and you realize that, okay, this is not what I'm going to pursue. And a lot of what I do has also happened that way. And I think a lot of elements have kind of been at play, really. It's hard to pinpoint just one.
I think it's also like, what is the prime driver for a musician? Like, okay, so is it money? I think it's a bit of everything, right? But is it money? Is it that you really have a story inside you that you want to say? Is it fame? Is it something like, hey, whatever I do, I want to become a composer, or I want to appear on TV? So there's all these different, or I want to be in a stage where there's like some 10,000 people, right? So there's all these drivers, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on which one it is that, it matters, right? So
Yeah, and I think at different points in your life, there are different things you're driven
Of
by.
course, yes.
Right? Having had a very comfortable childhood and then having chosen music as a mainstream profession, I now know that, maybe in my childhood, I would have said things like, oh, money doesn't matter. It's everything else. And now you know enough to know that money is important. You need a certain level to kind of feel comfortable. And above that is, of course, additional. But unless you have that basic comfort, you're not going to be able to do anything else. Like a hungry person is going to be difficult for him or her to look at creativity as something to fill their day with, right?
True. So, and also, I think as certain needs, basic needs, which might not be your prime drivers, get satisfied. For example, staying with money. After that gets satisfied, then immediately you start to feel like, hey, what am I doing? Why am I doing? Because you are always working towards saying, okay, I need to manage my finances, or I need to manage this, so I need to get to this level. Once that threshold is breached, I think it's very funny how suddenly there is a sense of, hey, what
Purpose.
next? Yeah, the purpose. Yeah.
And I think, again, there are two sides to that story, because unless you have that intrinsic drive to do something, like we spoke about what factors musicians are driven by. For some, it's fame. For some, it's, just great quality of work. A lot of people get comfortable with money, and then somehow drive disappears. I feel that becoming comfortable can also put you in a place where you feel, okay, let's, continue this current level of whatever work and everything. Money is fine. There's no reason to, again, disturb things or go after anything more. But I think if you don't have that fundamental sense of drive, I don't think you're going to be, actively thinking about achieving a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true. Also, keeping aside hunger, because that's very far away, right? For most of us, I would say. And on the other side, there is, having too much money. You don't care about what you have to do, the money doesn't really matter. But then I think this phase of making a bit of a sacrifice, sacrifice with respect to maybe investing something into a new project, into a new album, maybe sacrificing your time. Basically, maybe you would have probably been doing recordings, and I would have probably been doing a lot of concerts, but sacrificing some of that to do something new. I think that's a very exciting. I love that adventure. Sometimes I've been in states where I've been very comfortable as well, but then I feel like I'm in a space where I'm trying something new. It's a very exciting space to be in. And I think with you, with whatever you've done with, in the past year, although I think there's been a lot of, I was speaking to Sandesh and he was telling me how he did a pilot for Madras Mehfil. And
yes, we did.
I'm very curious to know how your journey into
Madras
Mehfil happened from the start.
Yeah, it's again something very close to my heart.
I
And
mean,
like
I
you
love
said,
the performance.
Thank you.
Absolutely love the performance. So I'm looking
being
forward
there.
to your next one as well. Jayashi and I, I'll let you talk about it. All the small twists and
Thank
turns
you.
through the performance. It was awesome. But I'm just very curious to know,
The
taking
process
away
of-
from where you were possibly post-COVID, and like how did you find this out? And
Okay. Thank you for the compliments, first of all, and thank you for being there. I think it means a lot when people from the fraternity show up to support one another. I think that's crucial, and it always feels great to be acknowledged, especially when you're doing something that sort of is against the tide. It's experimental. You want to see your loved ones, people you know in the audience, and also when it comes from people who are exceptionally good at what they do. Like, I really admire your work. I admire what you have done over the years. So I think when you get feedback from such your colleagues and your contemporaries, it feels wonderful. As for how this came into being, Madras Mehfil is very, very close to my heart, and sometimes I think I'm a little unhealthily attached to my dream. But that's another story. And I think you have to have that kind of blind devotion and love for what you do, because I think you definitely, there are a lot of odds that you're fighting, especially when you're doing something experimental, like I said. So you need to have that sort of sense of passion. But again, like, I'm happy you brought up Sandesh's name, because I've had this conversation with him a lot of times, and how he talks about passion is important, but it's not going to help you see
Right.
through, see you to your goal. You need other things. You need to have that unwavering sense of commitment as well. No matter how you feel, that becomes part of your discipline. You get up, you dress up, and you show up. With Madras Mehfil, I think what has happened is there is a lot of conversation about it now, especially in the public sphere. And that's exactly what we wanted, because we've been active in the private space for quite some time.
Okay.
And a lot of, like, say, corporate events, a lot of, celebrations. We've been part of that entire space. And it has been my dream for the longest time to bring this to a more public, accessible place where a lot more people can experience this kind of art. I'm not from Madras. I live here now. But from what I hear, in the 70s and 80s, Madras used to have a Ghazal culture. A lot of,
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, apparently. And I didn't know that.
Okay.
And because you don't typically associate this kind of music with the South, right? You think of Ghazals, you think, Delhi, Bombay. I don't know if that's conditioning, but it's also, there is some truth to it. You have a lot of that,
Yeah.
music in that genre in those states. And what I want to do with Madras Mehfil and Anand and I, we want to create that space for the city and bring that back,
Right.
Kind of like a revival. And we decided we'd do it through baby steps. And what better way to communicate what we want to do, than music. So we started doing these very sort of small, intimate concerts, which would have about 30 or 40 people in the audience, to kind of also do a bit of, like, testers and see how it works. And the response has been great, honestly. And for me personally, I grew up listening to this kind of music. So I really feel like I've had so much time for this music to sort of rest in my head. And today when I sing these songs, it comes from a place of, being influenced by multiple things. My memories, of course, nostalgia, and also a love for the art form. Ghazals are essentially poetry. And when you especially understand the meaning of what you sing, and you're also able to communicate that with your audience and they respond, it's such a gratifying feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do. And also, I think, in a way, break certain stereotypes that perhaps South Indians may not be able to do this kind of work. I've grown up in a lot of different places. I've spent the majority of my childhood in the Middle East. I've been influenced by Arabic, by Hindi, by Urdu, a lot of languages. But I think sometimes when people hear your name, there's a bit of a block, because they automatically put you in that South Indian bucket,
Right.
and then you can't do this kind of music. So I think it's been very gratifying. We've done a lot of concerts in Delhi. That's like doing Carnatic music in Chennai. We've been invited to perform there. And the feedback we've received has been so beautiful. And I think
Nice.
that's also a very reaffirming part of the whole process.
Right.
And I feel like the sky's the limit. This is just the beginning. I have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of goals. And I can see my goals clearly. And it's, my path, my lane. And I'm going to go after them.
Nice.
That's how I feel.
I like how, as you were saying, you're also putting a bit of a structure around the whole thing. You have a name for it. You have like a certain, for want of a better word, an attitude around what the whole project is about. And of course, Anand is helping you, which is always
he's
helpful.
Not because we're on camera, but he's one of the biggest pillars of support. And I keep saying that, like Jayashree is for
Jayashree
you.
is,
I
of
think
course.
for the kind of work that we do, it's impossible to do it without a nurturing ecosystem And I think you can only achieve all that you set out to if you have your pillars of support. And
Yeah.
Anand
And I
is definitely
saw
that for me.
one thing I noticed, apart from the wonderful music, I mean, with you singing, with Manon Mani, with Chandrajit and Kshatriyan, you saw that there were a group of people who had come and everyone was there for the music, but everyone was there for you as well. It was a very nice vibe. It was very
Yeah,
nice to,
yeah.
it was very heartening to
Yeah.
sort of see and I immediately said, hey, this will work in Chennai, this will work in Bangalore, this will work
Absolutely.
in Hyderabad,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
Bombay, Delhi.
I
This
mean,
is something that
it should ideally work anywhere, because what we also do is we explain the meaning of the songs that we sing. And I think that helps people relate better. Every ghazal that we do, there's a bit of trivia. The concept that you came for was one of our shorter sets. So when we have more time, we explain the meaning of each ghazal, keywords, because Urdu is not something that everybody's familiar with.
do you want to talk about one ghazal? Maybe we'll play and sing it
Yeah.
together.
Well, it's so hard to pick a favorite. Yeah, I'll sing this one. It's a beautiful ghazal composed by Jagjit Singh ji. And I think one of my biggest regrets is not, having been to any of his concerts. And I keep going to YouTube and playing his concert videos. And when you close your eyes, you almost feel like you're there, the audience. Let's do this one. It's
Which
called
one is it?
It's called Meri Tasveer Mein Rang Aur Kisi Ka To Nahi. It is a song of, how should we put it? Describes the feelings of a person who's feeling completely, sort of battered by life and all the curveballs and all the obstacles that have been sent this person's way. But also in a way of, maybe it's not yet time to give up. I'll still continue trying.
Right.
And it's a stunning composition. It's one of my favorites. And also, something about this ghazal is that my parents used to play this a lot. And my brother and I, when we were kids, we used to listen to this. And at that point, of course, you're a child. You don't really have that much, life experience. And in terms of relatability, and you're having a comfortable childhood, and you're wondering why they're listening to such, depressing, sad songs. And then sometimes life does a number on you. And you realize that this is why people connect so much with these songs.
What raga is this song in?
It's a mix, honestly. I think there are influences of Bhagyashree. It's quite beautiful. A lot of ghazals are a mix of ragas.
Okay.
You also have ghazals that are composed specifically in one raga, but this is more of a mix. So
Right. So this is basically like a ghazal is not purely classical, so it can be a bit like film songs. It can take its bit of liberty with the scales.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Again, one thing about ghazals is that I think a lot of people have assumed that it is very classical. And I think a lot of people want to take ownership of the art form, right? I've never been one to sort of go the purist way. And I
Right.
feel that it's essentially poetry. And you sing it in a way that someone can relate to, and that's the point of it for me. And of course, musically, I want to explore a lot more in terms of what I can deliver, how I can sing. But I don't think I would ever, feel that ghazals should be only classical. It can be done by anybody. And in fact, Jagjit Singh ji, one of his biggest achievements, I would say, is that he sort of made the art form more accessible to everybody.
Right.
His songs would have very simple melodies. A lot of his compositions have been in Hindi, not even Urdu, and very plain, simple Hindi that everybody can understand. And that was the
Right.
point. And that's why I think he managed to touch so many more hearts than a lot of,
Nice.
say, classical musicians whose concerts you would need a little more technical knowledge to understand.
Okay.
And that's why I love him in particular, because he sort of made a very big statement, saying that anybody can come to my concert and I'll make sure you understand what I'm singing. So
That's nice.
this is, one of his compositions. And in fact, you should listen to the original.
Okay.
It's sung by Lata Mangeshkar ji.
Okay.
And from an album called Sajda, which would have come out, I think, in the 90s. So
Right.
it's probably more than 30 years old.
Okay.
And people are still talking about the song today. So,
Okay.
it's enough testimonial.
Let's hear it.
See?
See, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to switch on Tampur?
Yeah, sure. रंग और किसी का तो नहीं, मेरी तस्वीर में रंग और किसी का तो नहीं, घेर ले मुझे को सब आँखें, मैं तमाशा तो नहीं, मेरी तस्वीर में रंग और किसी का तो नहीं, घेर ले मुझे को सब आँखें, मैं तमाशा तो नहीं, मेरी तस्वीर में रंग और किसी का तो
Sort of similar to, I understand what you mean. It's not a raga in itself. It's a bit
not
of here and
particularly,
there.
but traces of.
Sort of sounds very similar to Kure Ondru Millai.
Yeah, let's hear you.
You heard this song?
Yeah, but I will not attempt to sing it when the cameras are rolling, so. Lovely. You're
Nice how it
inspiring me to
comes
sing
into
the
that.
next verse.
You should.
I will.
ahead.
So I'll explain the meaning again. Also, that was so lovely. We did a mashup right there. It's got quite a few antaras, as they say. And the next verse talks about, it says, Zindagi tujhse har ek saas pe samjhauta karoon. शौक जीने का है मगर इतना तो नहीं. So it means, I hope I said that correctly. The meaning is, the person says, hey, life, at every breath, I'm having to make a compromise with you. I do want to live, but don't test my resolve or my patience. I don't think I have that much left in me. So, शौक जीने का है मगर इतना तो नहीं. I want to live,
but not
that much. So do not. It's basically saying, please just give me a break.
Right.
So I'll sing those lines.
Sure.
जिंदगी तुझे से हर एक सांस पे समझौता करूं. जिंदगी तुझे से हर एक सांस पे समझौता करूं. शौक जीने का है मुझको मगर इतना तो नहीं. मेरी तस्वीर में रंग और किसी का तो नहीं.
Amazing.
Goes like that.
Amazing.
Yeah. What a
So
stunning
soulful.
composition. Yeah, and you should.
Well sung.
Thank you. You should listen to the original. It's a song of, deep pain, but there's
Right.
also a hint of, like a glimmer of hope, like the person has still not given up. but
Right.
is sort of begging for life to just give him a break.
Right.
So
Nice.
it's a beautiful composition.
I like it. I like how the themes are. There are various themes. Like, there's a Ramachandra Kripalu, which you sang so beautifully as well.
Thank you.
That's the devotional, the religious sort of vibe, right? But I also like that there is this philosophical vibe. And then I learned Eri Ali,
Oh, that's beautiful.
which is a very, it's just a, the lyrics are very floating. It just talks about, my dear one has gone to the town and I'm just counting the stars until.
Of separation
So
and longing.
it's of separation, but it's a little bit like it's much more casual than we.
Yeah, and more romantic than sad.
Yes,
kind of.
for me that's a very big difference coming from the Carnatic background, and every song is a religious song, which is great because there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of
bhakti.
bhakti that comes from it. But it's also nice to have different themes when it comes to, and also I don't know if there is a Ghazal equivalent for, say, a Carnatic music. I'm sure there are things, right?
I love that you brought this up because a lot of people also assume that ghazals are only, sad songs and they only talk about pain and separation and longing, and which is not incorrect, because you do have a lot of ghazals about pain, and I think pain is also universal, it's relatable, so a lot of people get on board. But there are ghazals about happy things as well, about reunions and a lot of other happy emotions.
I'm
Like,
sure.
in fact, there's one ghazal which I actually do at my concerts, and I call it a motivational ghazal because it says, it's again sort of connected to romance, but it's about, sorry, you were going to say
Again,
something.
Jagjit Singh's or
No, this was composed by, an iconic duo called Mohammad Hussain Saab and Ahmed Hussain Saab, and
Right.
it's their ghazal. It's called Chal Mere Saath Hi Chal, and it's again in the context of love. It talks about, I'm assuming one person is telling their partner, I can see that you feel very bound by the shackles of society. I'm requesting you to break free. He says, Chal mere saath hi chal, ए मेरी जाने ghazal, इन समाजों के बनाए हुए बंधन से निकल चल.
got it.
And it's beautiful, and I call it a motivational ghazal because it's
Right.
well, in one sense it is about a couple and one person telling the other, but in a larger sense it could also just be someone telling a group of people that, you know what, don't restrict yourself, don't
Yeah.
settle.
It reminds me of Robert Frost's The Road Less Traveled.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah,
That
absolutely.
poem was, it's similar, right?
The miles to go before I.
No, I'm paraphrasing. I was in a forest, and there
yes,
was
yes, I know
two
what you're talking
roads.
about.
One
Yeah, of
road
course,
was
yeah.
less traveled, and I took the one less traveled, and it made all the difference.
Made all the difference,
It
yeah,
left
yeah,
a very
yeah.
huge imprint on me when back in the day when I was deciding what I should do. And
Absolutely, and I think it's great that you have, compositions that inspire people to do, other things apart
Yeah.
from going
Could
to a
you
place
sing
of
a
sadness. Yes,
couple of
absolutely. Yeah,
lines of this one.
yeah. This is kind of Yaman-ish in the
Nice.
vicinity. This is beautiful, and again, very special memory because my parents introduced me to this composition. I didn't know, and back in the day when we would have like cassettes and stuff, and you'd play them till the tapes came out. My parents would play this in the car all the time on all our drives to wherever we'd go to, and to a point that my brother and I memorized the entire album. We'd know like side A how many songs and side B how many songs, and this song we could sing in our sleep. And again, right, as children, you don't really have a lot of life experience to relate to, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. But this is a song that both of us love, and again, it's about probably 40 years old,
Right.
still very relevant. And I think one of the most beautiful aspect of a composition is its timelessness, and not all compositions pass that test, and probably don't have to. But I think when a song does qualify, and I think it's really beautiful. So I'll do this one. चल मेरे साथ ही चल है मेरी जाने गज़ल चल मेरे साथ ही चल है मेरी जाने गज़ल इन समाजों के बनाए हुए बंधन से निकल चल चल मेरे साथ ही चल है मेरी जाने गज़ल चल मेरे साथ ही चल.
Nice, beautiful.
Goes like that.
Very nice.
Such a beautiful composition, and also back in the day, like, yeah, go ahead. What does it remind you of? Again, a very, one of those universal ragas. So many compositions and
Yeah. Nice, very nice. I started my Hindustani thing with classes with Kaushik ji with learning Yemen. So
let's hear
that's
you
the
sing
only raga
Ariali.
that I've.
Let's hear you
sure.
sing that. What Shruti?
D.
Yeah.
Ariali piya bin सखी रियाली पिया बिन सखी कलन परत मोगे घड़ी पलचिन दिन रियाली पिया बिन सखी कलन परत मोगे घड़ी पलचिन दिन रियाली पिया बिन.
Beautiful. Continue, please. Do the next one.
जब से पिया परदेस गवन किनो जब से पिया परदेस गवन किनो रतिया पलट मोगे तार रे गिन गिन रतिया पलट मोगे तारे गिन गिन ये रियाली पिया बिन सखी कलन परत मोगे घड़ी पलचिन दिन रियाली पिया बिन.
Beautiful. And you say you just started.
Yeah, I just started. It's opened
Very
up a
nice.
lot of pathways for me because for the longest time I was I did learn singing formally. But then after a point of time, it was just the violin because college and I was busy. And so I was just sort of self-taught and I was like in the middle of nowhere. I did go for voice lessons with Shamala Vinod ma'am, which was hugely beneficial for my voice. But, it's very funny that I've joined Hindustani classes and it's changed the way that I approach even the band songs or the film songs that I sing, with the akar, with, how to use the nasal voice. So it's nice that it's given a lot of, it's very different when you learn from a guru and I think it's
Absolutely.
it just adds like a
Another
360
dimension.
degree. Yes, another dimension.
I'm curious to know why the switch to Hindustani and what was your motivation with wanting to learn Hindustani music? Because I know you come from a very solid Carnatic background, and I've known this about you for a long time, and that heavily influences your work as well, right? So why the switch and what led to?
So I wouldn't call it a switch. I look at everything as sort of a value addition, but obviously when you're learning Hindustani, you want to learn it the proper way, the way it should be done, and then see what you can. I like the Hindustani music has certain qualities to it where it's there are more curves, if you know, in terms of the sangatis, how they flow, the way their alaps flow. So for me, it feels like it's a very, as a musician who's, as in my quest to become a more complete musician, I felt like Hindustani music and the whole culture behind how one sings the raga. What are the different rules and the frameworks for Hindustani that are different from Carnatic? I feel like that really helps me from a vocal point of view, but also even from a composition point of view, for instance. So I've always wanted to learn Hindustani, and I
Okay.
knew that as a singer, especially, it would help me, add a dimension to my singing. And yeah, we were speaking, and then you suggested, and then I got in touch with Kaushik ji, and then it's nice the way it's going. Very happy about it.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's not a switch; it's more of value addition.
Yes.
And I admire that about you, that you are, you're in that quest for, adding to your strengths. And I think not a lot of people approach life that way. And I think the older we get, with inertia and lack of flexibility, I think it becomes harder to kind of explore new things. And if you're able to do that, I think that's a big win right away.
Yeah, I think it's. I think I would say musicians find it easier to probably keep doing stuff like these. Maybe it works for some, maybe it doesn't, but there's always some evolution, right? Every project is different from the other, and some projects you're on top and you feel like I'm in control of the whole thing. There are many projects where I'm like completely lost. I'm like, I don't know how to go about it. Maybe I have a creative block, or maybe I lack a certain skill set
For that project.
Obviously I'm fortunate to be surrounded by so many good musicians. So when I started, it was like, hey, I want to do everything. I want to manage everything. I want to
the superhuman
I want to sort out
narrative.
everything. But then with time, you realize that there are certain things that you're good at, certain things you're not so
Yeah.
good at. Maybe you just have the larger vision, the larger framework, and you have different brains and different hands sort of contribute to
True.
making
good,
something
good
that's
to delegate.
yeah
Always is, yeah.
adds.
Going back to what you said about themes, I mean, I have two things that I wanted to speak to you about. You asked about, the Ghazal equivalent of Carnatic music pieces in terms of devotion. A big stream of music and, say, art that Ghazals draw from is the Sufi space. I mean, everything is sort of, interconnected. And what I love about the Sufi space is that a lot of their compositions, it's not only about romantic love, it's also about divine love.
Right.
For example, there's a very famous piece of Amir Khusro poetry called Airi Sakhi More Piya Ghar Aaye.
Okay. Did you sing this?
Not.
It seems very familiar.
I've done a version of it, not at the concert, but there's a recording. And there's another, sort of interpretation where it says Airi Sakhi More Khwaja Ghar Aaye. Khwaja refers to the creator, to the maker. So it also talks about romantic love in one sense, but there's an entire school of thought that interprets it in terms of, divine love.
Right.
So they're quite connected. And I think if you sort of scratch, at the surface, you'll find that there's an entire ocean of like poetry, which talks about a lot of other themes and not just, say, sad things.
Right.
And it's just a matter of exploring and finding out the kind of music that you listen to, the artists whose work moves you. You don't really have to you don't possibly relate to everybody's work, and you find your favorites, you find your influences, and then you build upon that. You build your own, style of work.
Right.
And coming to SoulSabha, I love the concept. First of all, what a catchy name.
Yeah.
And really kind of, gets stuck in your head. That's what you want when you're building something new. So how did that come to be? And I'm curious to know the journey and what are your plans for SoulSabha?
So SoulSabha is, it's for me, and even for Indosoul in a lot of ways, it's a homecoming for us to come back to playing more Carnatic music. We started off as a contemporary Carnatic band, and we've always been a contemporary Carnatic band, but somewhere down the way, we've started doing a lot more film stuff because, our private concerts, it required us to play more film and stuff like that. And then COVID happened, and we had to sort of stay at home, come back, and then after a point of time, it's always this question of where did we start with? And an essential answer to this was the contemporary Carnatic nature of what we are. Of course, we do a lot of original. We're very proud of our original music, but the contemporary Carnatic nature for us is something that we are very proud of, and that's, for me, one of the reasons that I started the band as well, to see how we can put a global sort of a sound and a spin to Carnatic music.
Sorry, just going to interrupt you. Did you feel that there was a lack of that kind of music, and you felt that there was, there were takers for this kind of music, but what was the motivation behind?
Okay, so it's I think there are takers for this music for sure, but then it's a mixed bag, I would say, because considering the religious component of the song, and I must confess, I've started singing a lot more, but as an instrumentalist, I treat a song for how the melody is. I don't necessarily think of the lyrics, but now I'm singing more and more, I start to listen.
You have a different perspective.
I have a different perspective, but somewhere down the line, we treat the melody, right? For example, you take Raga Thodi, and we are working on Ganamurti with Abhilash Venkatachalam.
Okay.
It's coming out very well. For example, a Thodi Raga is like the... So that's the Thodi Raga, which we call as a Rakti Raga. There are 5 Rakti Ragas, or 6.
What does that mean?
Rakti Ragas, I'm not too good with theory, but to my knowledge, Kambodi, Kalyani, Thodi, Shankarabharanam, you would have heard these names. These ragas are some of the main ragas.
Okay.
They end up having a lot of frameworks. I don't want to call it rules, but I want to say a lot of frameworks for how a ga is sung, how a ma is played, how certain phrases come. And I've read that Rakti Ragas are supposed to give happiness. But then this Thodi Raga, if you were to put a guitar or a keyboard behind it and harmonize it, it would go in a sort of a slightly darker sort of a direction.
That's what came to my mind when you sang that as well. Yeah.
So, but then the lyrics that are there in this framework could be something about something joyous, something happy, because the raga is considered a happy raga. But I don't know, the sensibility that we have with these notes make us feel otherwise. So we are in a space where we are treating the melody on its merit.
Okay.
And it feels like, the overall sounding is a bit on the darker side. But then the lyrics are something that are a little bit different. So
it's like a beautiful paradox.
To cut a long story short, what we are doing is we're just being ourselves, right? I'm approaching the song as I see it, as a Carnatic musician with a little bit more sensibility of Western music. Say Vikram, who plays the guitars, is approaching the melody like he would approach as a guitarist. Same with Ram, same with Rashwin, Akshay, Venkat. So everyone is approaching it with respect to our sensibilities. And that's pretty much what Indosoul is about. It's a bridging of musical cultures, meeting of minds between musical cultures. And I feel like it's a very, very... And we live in this world where I'm not sitting here wearing one Veshri and a Panchakacham and talking to you. You are wearing a sari, which is very traditional and very nice. But, the kind of food we eat.
Yeah. Everything is an amalgamation.
Everything is... we've gone into the hybrid sort of a zone. We might sort of think about how things were once beautiful, but and we might even want to go back to it, and there might be a lot of reasons why we might want to go back to it, but we are in a hybrid world where we are exposed to a lot of things, and people like us have grown in this hybrid world. Like you were talking about how the ghazals that you like today were the ones that you listened as a child, right? So you can't take away these imprints of the exposures that we've gotten. So I feel like there's a whole host of people in this generation that would love to consume Carnatic music in a contemporary manner, in a way
format.
that in a different format. Again, I always have to caveat everything that I'm saying, because I sometimes feel in the Carnatic industry, people tend to be a little bit defensive. But it's not for me to say that what is there as a pure traditional Carnatic music concert, it's beautiful and it's lasted for hundreds, thousands of years. It's going to last for hundreds, thousands of years more. And for me, I owe a lot of who I am as a musician to my Carnatic upbringing. And I enjoy going to the kacheri scene during the Margari. I just love it. But I feel like if I were to express myself as a musician, and I am very attached to all these songs as well, I would express it in a slightly different manner
way.
with different instruments. And that's pretty much what a SoulSabha is to have like-minded musicians such as yourself. We are very excited to have you on board.
Likewise.
You
can't
being
wait.
you being you, but you also being a Hindustani musician will be the first time.
Okay.
We are going to have a Hindustani collab. So very, very excited about that.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And so for me, it's to reach out to all those people. When we toured the US, the parents there said, hey, usually we try and force our kids to come to these kacheris, but they're all, how outside there is a lobby around the hall.
Correct.
And everyone's just running and playing there. But for your concert, when Indosoul was performing, they came in and they listened.
Wow.
So
What a massive compliment.
yes, that's a very nice compliment. And I just, more than how we performed or what we have done, we've gotten something right with the whole concept. So I can't think of music without a groove, without a harmony to it, right? So that's where I am. And I feel like there are a lot of people, takers, who are interested in this. And we've gotten a lot of compliments for the way we've done the SoulSabha season 1, Spurti, Haricharan.
And I've seen those
Abhinaya,
videos. They're beautiful. Congratulations on
brothers.
such a, on coming up with such a beautiful concept and executing it
Thank you.
beautifully. Yeah.
It's been teamwork. The band, of course, goes without saying. The band, each one of them, Vikram, Ram, Reshwin, Venkat and Akshay, but also the musicians. Like, it was very interesting. Each experience working with the Spurti, working with Trichur brothers was very, very interesting. The way they approached fusion music. Haricharan, of course.
All
working with
amazing
him.
musicians.
Yeah. And the idea behind SoulSabha is a coming together. Okay, on a conceptual level, musically, I've talked to you about it, but it's also a coming together of artists who might be in different pursuits. Like an Haricharan is a popular playback singer, but
One of
at
the best
heart,
we have
he's a
today,
classical musician, right? Which is similar with Spurti, which Trishul brothers are at their hearts, they are Sabha, Kacheri singers who are like, sort of there in every Sabha. But then to
Synonymous
see
now,
their
yeah.
side of them with us is very interesting, because it was a very different experience working with them as it was with Hari or with Spurti. So I feel like every song brings the character and the interest, not just from the voice perspective, but also from the way, what kind of sensibilities do you have? We want to do it as a very true, I feel like collaboration is a word that's a little bit misused, the featured and the collaboration. But for us, it's like, it will be like Indosoul and Vandana presents, whatever we do.
Beautiful,
It's not going to be, we are featuring Vandana or we're featuring Haricharan. For me, it's like right from the song selection, which I think we should lock.
Very, very soon.
It needs to be a thing together. For me, that matters a lot as well. And of course, we have a listening session. We're going to be recording this live, shooting and recording this live, which is going to be very interesting.
I love that you did it that way. And it's been one of my, dreams to be part of projects like that and to potentially do something like that with Madras Mehfil as well. And I love how you, curated the whole thing, and right from the, choice of songs and all of it. And what was the biggest takeaway for you from season 1 of SoulSabha?
The biggest, for me, it was people coming and saying that they liked the concept. I would say more than that being a takeaway, I would say the overall, unless you do it once and present it in front of people, you don't understand what it is. Like it has to, the rubber needs to hit the road. So in that sense, it was always an idea in the mind. but the way it was received by the listening session, which were there while we were shooting it, as well as the comments and the text that we've gotten about how they liked the concept, how they were able to, how they like to listen to Carnatic music in that form. The overall concept is something that, for me, it is like, okay, this is something that we can continue and we can keep doing. And the fact that it's different artists for each song just means that it gives us a chance to explore a different nuance each time as well. We've had to also sort of digest a few criticism along the way.
As long as it's constructive.
Yes.
If it's not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if not, it doesn't matter, of course.
Yeah.
But, there are some people, I feel like, who are in a space where they've listened to a certain kriti in a certain way for years and decades, and they're somehow not able to disconnect from it. I believe everyone's free to listen to what music they want and very free not to listen to something. But that also was something was very interesting to see and see how that is panning out. But by and large, we've had a lot of compliments for the way we've put together and showcased that whole thing as a video session, of course, along with the sound. So, yeah, I feel like I want this to be like a Coke studio for
I love
Carnatic
that.
music, right? And,
that's beautiful.
And Hindustani music, of course, yeah.
Or like the classical arts.
Classical arts.
Whatever. Yeah, even non-classical, but as long as it's done in a certain way.
Yeah.
I love what you said about, I like that you brought it up because I just went for a concert the other day by a very senior musician, Srimati Jayashree Arvind, who plays the veena, with such, finesse. And she also sings like a dream. And one of the things that she said, and she's quite senior, one of the things that she said was she addressed this whole, section of people who claim that it needs to be done a certain way and who are quite rigid and inflexible in accepting different ways of, a composition being rendered. And she said something which she said in passing, during her concert, and she was explaining the meaning of compositions and everything. And she said, music is not meant to be static. And that's a very simple phrase. But I went for this concert more than 48 hours ago. It's still lingering in my mind. She said, we have R&D in every field. Why do we limit ourselves when it comes to music? And why do we decide that, something has to be done a certain way and no one's going to touch it for the next century or so? She said, music is not meant to be static. It's okay to improvise. She spoke about this in the context of a raga where she played it in a style that's different from what people normally expect, when it comes to that raga. And she said, why restrict yourselves, to a certain way of thinking? It's not meant to be static. It is dynamic and you should experiment. And there's no growth if you're not going to be pushing yourself to think in different ways. And I think coming from a person in a category in terms of age, you would assume that they're quite set in their ways. And I think when it comes from those quarters, it feels very reaffirming that what you're doing is all right. Not that validation is everything, but when it comes from people that you admire, it means something.
Yeah, I feel like, I think it's very interesting to, on a very larger perspective, it's interesting to see how Carnatic music has evolved vis-a-vis how Hindustani music has evolved. Because Hindustani music has evolved a lot. It's taken influences from a lot of places, while Carnatic music has, I wouldn't say it hasn't evolved, but it has stayed a little bit more static compared to a Hindustani, right? Through all the invasions, through all the influx of new cultures, within our country.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because I feel like status quo is good because there's a lot of ancient treasures that our civilization has, and it's nice to take it forward in a responsible manner.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the center also, the truth sort of lies in the center, where it's always with music. There's, as you said, there's always some evolution in something. It's
okay for evolution to be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, the other day I listened to a khayal, which is a form of Hindustani music a component. And like how in Carnatic music, it's mostly in the South. So you have South Indian languages, part of the whole repertoire. And although this is something that is so, commonplace for me, it felt different because I'm used to singing the compositions in Hindi and dialects of Hindi. And I came across this really beautiful khayal in Punjabi,
Okay.
and although I've been a student of Hindustani music for so many years, it's not something I've actively thought about. And
Is
then
that something you remember to sing? Or?
Unfortunately, no.
No?
And again,
Okay.
it's like really beautiful, and I don't know it really well, but I will share it with you later on.
Sure, sure.
It kind of jolted me
Do
out
we
of
have a
my...
name of it? We can play it.
Yeah, it's in Bihag. It's Rag Bihag. The name of this musician is Inayat Kaur. It's beautiful, right?
Yeah, very beautiful.
And it made me wonder that, there are so many languages, and I'm sure there are compositions in a lot more languages that we know of. And, Calcutta has such a huge tradition of, classical music. And some of the greatest musicians we have today and we listen to are from Kolkata. And similarly, I'm sure a lot of other states would have their own compositions as well. And it just feels like yet another, incredibly vast element for me to explore. And I'm excited about that. I want to do compositions in a lot of other languages.
Very interesting.
At Madras Mehfil, we do a lot of Indian languages. And I'm thinking I should now stop saying Indian languages and think just languages. Because you do have ghazals in French, in Spanish.
Wow.
There's a massive tradition.
Do we have anything in Tamil? Ghazals in Tamil?
We could create them. And I'm sure that there are compositions that I don't know of. And what could also be done is to pick compositions and present them in the manner of a ghazal,
Nice.
And that also gives us the potential to work on a body of work in Tamil. Malayalam has a lot of songs because they have a big ghazal culture in Kerala. And typically other states like Karnataka, I'm sure we could explore Kannada, Telugu, other languages. And why restrict ourselves to just Indian languages?
Yeah, true. Very nice.
So
this would be a ghazal that what we listen to now would be a ghazal in Punjabi? A bandish.
A bandish in Punjabi. So again, a classical component.
Nice, okay.
And it just sounds so different. And I've also learned a bit of Rabindra Sangeet, and which is in Bengali. And there's just so much poetry out there. And I feel that the possibilities are endless, right?
Right.
Because you can pick any piece of poetry that you identify with and you tune it and you have a ghazal. So
nice. So thinking of SoulSabha, what song do you think
we'd like to do?
You should do? Maybe you have 2-3 options. I'm just looking in terms of what are the scales you're choosing, what kind of melodies you're choosing, and I'm like trying to think back to how would it be to have the band come in on that, right?
Okay.
So do you have any options in mind that we could listen to maybe?
There are so many lovely ones. In fact, that motivational ghazal I spoke about, it's got 3 or 4 antras. Back then you had, these substantial charanams and people would have the attention to listen to them. And again, it's beautiful poetry and lovely interludes. And I'm sure if we listen to it, we could come up with a beautiful version of it. We could listen to it and give it a shot.
Okay. Could you just tell the name?
Yes. I'll share the link.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, this is a really lovely one. It didn't occur to me until now.
It's nice. It came in the course of the conversation.
Hang on. And the interludes especially are so beautiful. You should check it out. time travel through music.
What raga is it?
Yaman for sure,
Yaman, okay.
bits of it, but I think there's a blend. Some of it feels like a bit of Mand. That's the other breath. It's a duo.
Okay. This is nice. Sounds nice and bright.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking if I can just also chip in with maybe something in Tamil.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, we can write the lyrics and all that, and it can be a fresh thing, or it could be an existing kriti as well. We have to figure out. Yeah, we could find a kriti that sits with this.
Yeah.
That goes along with the whole vibe, or we could also write something to it. This is a nice option.
This is a beautiful option.
The
I've been
intro
wanting
is
to-
very similar to a Hariharan Ghazal,
Which one?
Jumle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, similar raga. So from Kash, right? Yeah. Oh, that's stunning.
Jumle fir dol re tare
Oh, that's lovely. You could do that.
tararare 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 tararare.
That's lovely.
I love the Hariharan Ghazals.
Yeah.
That's the only Ghazals I ever listened to, to be very
Stunning.
frank.
In fact, I went for a concert of his recently, a couple of weeks ago. And I've been to a lot of his film concerts, but I'd never been to one where he does ghazals throughout. And it was a lovely setup. He, very interesting accompanist on stage. He of course had his harmonium for his Shruti reference. There was a harmonium player apart from that. There were two guitarists. There was someone on the keys and tabla.
So himself, keys, tabla, him on the harmonium.
And two guitarists.
Two guitarists.
And it was wonderful. And in fact, he sang a ghazal that day, which I had not heard of earlier. I mean, I've heard it in a different framework. And that's the thing with ghazals, right? You have so many of these super popular ones which exist in different melody frameworks. Like, for example, Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat, which is a very famous piece of poetry by Faiz Ahmed Faiz Saab. You have it in Yaman, you have it in another raga as well. And there's one ghazal that he sang that day, and I'll just sing a couple of lines. दिन परेशान है रात भारी है दिन परेशान है रात भारी है जिंदगी है कि फिर भी प्यारी है दिन परेशान है रात भारी है. Goes like that. It was love at first listen. And again, I'd heard this earlier in a lot of other melodies and sort of never took to it for some reason. And I heard him sing this live that day and it was just, love at first listen. Nice. And I went back to YouTube. There's a stunning live version of his with the backdrop of the Qutub Minar in Delhi. Right. And he sings this ghazal and it's beautiful. We could potentially
try that.
Check that out as well.
You want to check that out? Yeah. Din Pareshan.
I'll share the link with you. Din Pareshan hai, raat bhari hai. Let me share the link with you.
Can we play that, Sabri?
You can skip to like maybe a 30 seconds. Yeah. This is the Din Pareshan. It's beautiful. Apparently it's in No, that's another ghazal. And I think this is 20 years old. This rendition. Oh, and this is a Carnatic raga. He explained this on stage. It's called Nagaswaravali.
Nagaswaravali, yeah, okay.
That's the raga. And he used that for a ghazal. So,
Nice.
And it was fascinating the way he explained the whole thing.
दिन परेशान है रात भारी दिन परेशान है रात भारी है जिंदगी है कि फिर भी प्यारी है जिंदगी है कि फिर भी प्यारी है दिन परेशान है रात भारी है
Okay. It's nice. It's a lovely song. But I feel like Jumle
I think
is...
we're very influenced by Jumle right now. Let's listen to Jumle. Or do we need to listen to Jumle? We know
No,
it.
we can listen to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Jumle.
I mean, we already love the idea.
JHOOMLE Hariharan. If you're okay with the song, I'm okay with it because I
Jumle?
yeah,
Yeah, let's
I
do
like
it.
the song. We'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's in 7. I think it'll be interesting for the
Yes,
band to also
perfect.
explore
Yeah,
something
yeah.
in 7.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll do it.
And I think the way we kind of arrived at the song is special. It was almost instantaneous. And
Yeah.
I'm all for those moments. You know,
Perfect.
so
Sounds good. Let's listen to
yeah, we're going to have great expectations to live up to, but I think
of course.
I'm sure we'll come up with something that's good.
Yeah, we'll do something interesting.
Yeah,
We'll have fun.
Yeah. That
It's all
should
about
be the
having fun.
primary aim. Yeah. Lovely arrangement.
झूम ले हंस बोल ले प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी झूम ले हंस बोल ले प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी सांस के बस एक झोंके का सफर है जिंदगी झूम ले हंस बोल ले प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी
Yeah.
I think we're
Done.
sold.
We're sorted.
Nice. Yeah, that decision got made. I was
Yeah.
wondering how we would, pick a song because we've been having this conversation for at least a couple of weeks as to what song to do.
Yeah.
And between the two of us, we know, a substantial chunk of compositions, but for some reason we weren't able to pick one that both of us loved, immediately.
Any idea what this means?
It talks about, I think, sort of like encouraging a zest for life is what I
Right.
think it is.
Okay,
I could
nice.
look up the lyrics right away and tell you. Hang on.
I'll get it. I'll sort out a nice... I'll do a proper Carnatic sort of a melody to this.
Yeah.
And we'll write some Tamil lyrics to it and it'll be a nice
Yeah.
jugalbandi.
Yes, that'll be lovely. Yeah, more about, you should have a zest for life and, everything is so fragile, everything is so transient and make sure you enjoy every moment.
Right,
And don't
okay.
waste a a second of it lamenting or, focusing your energy in the wrong place.
Perfect.
I think it's great. It's relevant.
Nice. Very relevant.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. Good. We made the decision. That's what we
Yeah. Absolutely.
wanted to meet for. And good. We got our pilot podcast.
Congratulations
experience done.
on
Thank you.
the first episode and for this lovely concept. And I hope you have many more episodes and
Yeah, it'd
1,000
be nice.
at least. And,
Yeah.
I loved having this unfiltered conversation with you. And I like that it was
Likewise.
spontaneous and we just sort of let things flow. And it's been wonderful. And before we close, I've, known you for over a decade now. And we've worked together as well a few times. And I've always had a lot of respect for you and for what you do and for what you have built, from scratch. And I think, always a fan and now excited about our collaboration in, I would say, different avatars right now that we've,
Yes.
we currently are in. And looking forward to seeing what's going to come of it and hopefully the first of many more.
Thank you.
So.
Looking forward. I think it'll be a lot of fun and we'll keep catching up, jam with the band. And thanks for coming in. I'm very excited about not just this collaboration, about what you're doing with Madras Mehfil. And where can people find your music online?
Well, Madras Mehfil has an Instagram page. We're
Yes.
new, but we have our work online and on my Instagram handle as well and YouTube channel as well. And also, we would love to do something with you as Madras Mehfil. So
Sure.
I'm saying that now as well. So it's on camera and looking forward to doing something interesting and experimental with you as well. For Madras Mehfil.
Likewise. Wish you all the best and
Thank you.
we'll keep continuing our conversations with SoulSabha.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.